Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by PlayPicks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We're looking at a pretty big Wednesday night slate, following up a pretty big Tuesday night slate as well. In this one, we're taking a look at the Bulls and the Hornets playing in Charlotte. Gordon Hayward is out indefinitely right now with a bad ankle. Really tough to see that, but we will be looking at some fun stuff in this one. Great value bets, we believe, for you in the Bulls and Hornets game. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page, as we got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video we'll look to stay hot on after going 5-0 on Tuesday night. And if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to FDPicks.com or DKPicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, actually only a 6-game slate on Wednesday, which is unusual, but there are some great betting angles. We like two road teams tonight. We like the Bulls, who are -1.5 now at Charlotte. That's actually creeping in the right direction. The total is just rising exponentially, up from 230 to 236. Not a surprise given the way the Bulls have played lately. We'll address that in a minute, though. The other 5 games tonight, we got Spurs +6 at the Cavs. Darius Garland has a chance to return tonight. The Raptors are -10 at the Thunder, low total of 206 there. Lakers -9 at the Blazers. Both teams on a back-to-back, but Portland just kind of called it a season, unloaded at the trade deadline. The Warriors are +2 at Utah, and that is the other game we will break down today for you. That total crept up right now to 223. And then the Wolves at Sacramento for a second straight game there, and that total is at 235. Another potential shootout to look at with some player props. This one, the Bulls, I mean, they have been completely playing shootouts lately, not even thinking about playing defense because their entire backcourt is out injured. Now, Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball have been out for a while. Now, promising rookie Ayo Dosunmu is out with a concussion. So they're going to have a hard time stopping anybody. And the Hornets do have some talented guards lately, despite their struggles. This is really two opposing forces meeting right now, where the Hornets have just been absolutely dreadful on offense and the Bulls have been absolutely dreadful on defense over their last 5-7 games, depending the sample size you want to look at. So I don't think we're touching the total right now because of those forces right now. It's just too dicey, and the total is so high. If you grabbed it early, congrats. Yeah. And if you want to try to tease it down, if maybe you can get a little action, get it back closer to 230, should feel pretty good about that. The Bulls have gone over in 7 straight. They're allowing a league high 121.4 points per game in that span. But the Hornets, they've gone under in 17 of their last 23 now. They've gone under in 6 straight home games, and 5 straight games overall. In their last 7 at home, they have the worst offensive rating in basketball, and they're up to 11th in defensive rating, which has resulted in all those unders, despite them playing still at the 4th fastest pace in that span. But I think you don't have to overcomplicate this one. Just say the Bulls are a good team. They can still win these games when you get into shootouts, as long as they have both of their closers, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan near the top of the league in fourth quarter points this year. LaVine, I believe, finished second last year to Damian Lillard in fourth quarter points. They also have Vucevic, who's had really, really good numbers against the Hornets. His last 5 games, 3 of them with the Bulls. The Bulls have won 4 straight against the Hornets, including wins of 21 and 13 points in Charlotte their last 2 meetings. So at a negligible spread, I would just take Chicago here. They're 5-1-1 against the spread their last 7 after a loss, which is key here. Just had 2 really tough matchups against the Sixers and Suns. Expect them to bounce back. They're 22-11 against the spread when favored, and 27-14 straight up when they have those guys, LaVine and DDR, versus 4-5 without them. Charlotte's just reeling right now on offense, and you can't trust them to be able to execute in the clutch here against the Bulls, who are just a much more reliable team at this point down the stretch.
Yeah, a much more reliable team, and a team that, we know why they're struggling so much on defense. I mean, you called it out, right? Obviously, with those two defensive ball hawks on at the top of the point there, and Lonzo and Caruso. We've mentioned it a number of times, but now it's really seems like it's taken its toll on this team, obviously defensively. So, but once again, Charlotte just eyeing that total and getting it out of the way that we don't feel comfortable. I mean, if anything, we would prefer the under, but at the same time, I mean, you look at what Charlotte has done as of late. You mentioned they lost 5 in a row. In those 5 losses, they're averaging about 96 points a game. But the 3 games before that, they played the Lakers, Pacers, and Raptors, right? And they averaged about like 130 points a game, including 158 that they put up against the Pacers, who, as you mentioned, have completely given up on the season. The Lakers are not the defensive team that they were a couple of years ago. They are obviously a much faster pace and fast team now. And then they played the Clippers, Celtics, Cavs, Heat, and we're talking about unders all in those. And then when they asserted their will against Toronto, also another under. So my point is Charlotte is failing to score against teams that can play any lick of defense, and scoring a ton against teams that don't play defense, which we know the Bulls are. So it's just too back and forth in that one. I think the best bet here is that Chicago is a team that, despite the sort of recent woes that they have, and the woes that they've had have been relative to the fact that they're a good team on the season. I mean, they're 5-5 in their last 10. LaVine missed 3 of those games, and DDR missed 2 of them. There's a couple excuses built in already there, considering their entire team was out for a couple of those games. And then you look at what they're doing on offense, because in their last 7, they've had LaVine and DDR for those games. 3rd in offensive rating, dead last in defensive rating, right? And then, why are they so good on offense? They're the best. They're one of the best shooting teams in the league right now, in terms of true shooting and effective field goal percentage. And they're shooting the second highest percentage of their points from either the 2-point or the mid-range. They don't shoot the ball from 3 at all. They just get it and go as well. A ton of fast break points, 6 in percentage points off fast break. And they're also getting to the free throw line. And DDR is a huge reason for that. He's increased his free throw attempts this season, has been steadily doing so since he got to the Spurs. And Pop was like, you need to get more free points. And so now they're 4th in percentage points off free throw as well. So everything just really lines up for them being able to score as much as they want, especially against the Hornets, who, despite their slower, their sort of step back on, in terms of how fast they're playing and the amount of points they're scoring. I'm not willing to say they're a better defensive team, but they've been doing they've been sort of receding on offense, has Charlotte for a while now. And at least in part because, now Hayward's out. Hayward's been averaging roughly like 4 points a game for a while now, because he's just been not getting minutes. And now he's finally hurt indefinitely. Miles Bridges, we talked about this last time when the Hornets lost to the Raptors, and we called that, he's also a huge reason for that. His points per game just dropping over the last 15. You start to see that steady dip where he's, in his last 5 or so, averaging 15 a game from, down from about 22 earlier in the season on the entire season. So there's just not a lot to like about Charlotte and a lot to like about Chicago's offense. And that's why it doesn't really, you could feel good about Chicago going over their 118.5 team total. But at the same time, if this game gets into a gross blowout in a way that, some of these Charlotte games recently have with their choppiness and lack of offense, then, you don't necessarily feel good about the Bulls bringing it all the way to the end of the game to get over that 118.5. So main point here is that just keep it simple. Like you said, Chicago right now is a much better team, especially without Gordon Hayward, especially with the decrease in production from guys like Miles Bridges. You've got to expect guys like Vooch to go ahead and eat down low against a team that gives up a ton of points in the paint in Charlotte. And just really, like I said, not overthink this. Just I'm going to put most of my, any money that I really bet on this game, feeling really good about just taking the Bulls. And I know you mentioned as well, DDR, right? DeMar DeRozan, 25 points and a win. He scored at least 31 points in his last 3. He's got 30 plus in 5 of his last 8 games that he's played in. And his point prop is at 28.5, which is a lot more respectable than the 25.5 we keep seeing as we pound it. But 25 and a W, I feel really good about the W, as we mentioned. And 25 points from DeMar tonight feels, not too far fetched at all. It's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, and the same kind of doubles look with Vucevic to get a double-double is slightly plus money, and for him to get 20 points is nearly plus 200. He's got some great numbers against the Hornets. I mentioned in the article today, like his props for points and rebounds, the way Charlotte is playing with pace and not making shots, that will obviously give you a ton of rebounding opportunities. And just to back up what I'm saying about these teams being a different type of closers down the stretch, the Bulls are number 3 in offensive rating and 4th in net rating in clutch situations. That is the last 5 minutes of games within 5 points. They're 17-11, solid record in those games. And The Hornets are 18th in offensive rating, 23rd actually at home in those clutch situations. They're 22nd in field goal percentage, shooting just 40% from the field. It's Terry Rozier's supposed to be their closer. LaMelo Ball is not a guy who's just going to get a good shot for himself down the stretch. Miles Bridges struggling right now. I just don't know where they will turn in order to get into a shootout with this team. I mean, which we last saw Devin Booker and Chris Paul being those closers, and Phoenix, is the number one team in terms of clutch situations by a landslide. So you look at that, that's how they were able to hold off the Bulls, who scored 41 points in the fourth quarter to nearly come back and beat Phoenix, the best team in the league. Now they get a bounce back opportunity right now against a team they've handled recently, kind of a little brother situation. And I think that they definitely get this win. I feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned little brother. I mean, Nikola Vuce has just made them his little brother. 14 plus rebounds the last 3 times that he's played against the Hornets on the Bulls. And you talk about what they don't have. I mean, all the struggles on Charlotte, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that's not going to help when you don't have Gordon Hayward in there either. They have lost 11 of their last 13 games that he hasn't played dating back to last season. So obviously we know a point forward like himself is super crucial to what they do with guys flying all around him. And it's just going to impact everybody super negatively for the Hornets tonight. And you got to feel good about DDR and Levine being back on the floor together at the same time tonight. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. You can check out those other couple of videos for you. And until we see you next, happy betting.